up, Niners faithful? I'm Juju Talk Sports. That's Jose Corral. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This is 49 Reasons to Listen. So tons of great Niners content, new Niners content each and every week. And on today's episode, we're talking about a rumor that's picking up a little steam. It's getting a little steamy. There's a lot of steam in there. Condensation, some would call it. According to Grant Cohn from Sports Illustrated, Jamal Adams, who in the last few days has put it out there, there's 8 teams I would like to be traded to. That way I could get out of that hellish organization that is the New York Jets. And guess what? Our Niners are one of them. So, Jose, first question right off the bat is, should the 49ers trade for the all-pro safety?
In my opinion, yes. In my opinion, John Lynch should do anything possible to take advantage of this championship window that the team currently is under and bring in a guy like Jamal Adams, who's basically one of the best secondary guys, one of the best safeties in the league, would just bolster that defense in an area where we could honestly use some improvement. I think the fact that he is in an area where, we did struggle at times. There were some times where there were some coverage problems when it came down to the secondary. So I think getting a guy like Jamal Adams would be a really smart idea, something that John Lynch should try to pull the trigger on. I'm sure we'll talk about more about what we really have to give in order to get a guy like Jamal Adams. But just to answer that question, yes, I think the Niners should at least look into the possibility of, sending whatever they can to get Jamal Adams to San Francisco.
Well, the biggest thing whenever we're considering these trades is the ultimate question is, does this make the team better? And it's hard to argue that adding an all-pro safety like Jamal Adams won't make your team better, but there are some things you have to consider here. I can make arguments for both sides. The biggest thing is you're not just trading for Jamal Adams. You are trading for a brand new contract, a top overall paid strong safety in the league contract in Jamal Adams. And it's fair. You can make the case. We're not paying Jaquiski Tartt anything guaranteed next year. Jaquiski Tartt, after this end of the season, he's a free agent. He could walk. He could be in any other team. And he's probably going to demand a decent contract himself. He's not going to demand nearly as much as Jamal Adams will. But you're going to have to pay Jaquiski Tartt if you want him part of the team. Or you can always just draft another safety. The question is, how much is Jamal Adams worth to you, especially considering the Niners, they're starting to get a little closer to that cap. It's a hard cap sport where we just talked about the Kittle contract a couple weeks ago. If you're going to pay Kittle close to $20 million, you sure as hell can't afford to pay Jamal Adams close to $20 million. That's the problem.
No, yeah, I think that's what's going to end up being the question for John Lynch in the front office is, if you do plan on bringing Jamal Adams, is it going to be more of a short-term thing, or more like a 1-year rental type thing? Because he is in the last year of his rookie contract. He'll only get paid just a little bit over $3 million this next season. So that'll be the main question: is do we just bring him in for 1 year to help that secondary, to bring in a guy like him to an already championship-ready team? Or do you bring him in thinking that he's going to be long-term our guy in the secondary? And I think that's when you have to kind of look at what you have to give up for him. If you're just thinking of bringing him in for this year for that secondary, to help out that secondary, and just look at him as a 1-year rental, then you kind of have to be careful on how much you give away for him. But if you plan on actually signing him after this next season, then you could go ahead and maybe give up a couple of extra picks that maybe he would be worth. Obviously, you mentioned Jaquiski Tartt. He would be mainly the guy. It would basically, if you want to trade a position for position guy, then there's your position right there. That's the guy that a lot of people have been highlighting for a package to send to the Jets. So if you're looking to sign Jamal Adams past just the 2020 season, then you could actually afford to not just give Tartt, but maybe a couple of extra draft picks. But if you're looking at it as just as a 1-year rental for him to help out, Jimmy Ward and Richard Sherman in that secondary and Emmanuel Mosley, then you kind of have to be careful on what exactly you're going to send your way, because you mentioned Tartt is also in his last year of his contract. But from what it all seems like, he wants to be a Niner. He wants to be a part of this team. So I think, to me, that's just the one question for the front office is, what is your plan for Jamal Adams if you do get him to the Niners?
Yeah, because I don't think you can trade for Jamal Adams and only have him there for a year. Personally, that's how I feel about it. If you're trading for Jamal Adams, you're telling me that he's going to be a Niner for the next 3-4 years at bare minimum, because he needs to get a contract. But it's funny because Trent Williams is over there tagging him in pictures. It's like, Trent, do you want to get paid as well and stay with the Niners? Because there's only so many contracts we could afford to give around. And unless, like we talked about, unless Jimmy's going to restructure his deal, do like what Tom Brady did and just continuously take less, it's just impossible to add while we're doing so well in the draft. We're also going to talk about Fred Warner's going to have a contract coming up. We have Quan Williams, all these guys that really add value to our team. And the difference between Kowalski and Adams, how big is that gap really? Like, the main thing that could hurt us potentially is if, Kowalski gets hurt, because Kowalski, he's a big hitter. And unfortunately, it's taken him off the field a lot more than Adams has been off the field in his 3-year career. Adams has only missed a couple games. It's infuriating to look back at Adams' draft, though, when you consider that we took Solomon Thomas 3 picks above him. But it is what it is. Hey, Jets, would you be interested in taking Solly Thomas off our hands? I mean, if so, we can make this trade happen. I am all for that. But, it's unrealistic. We're, like you said, we're realistically would have to probably send a first-round pick the Jets' way, as well as, maybe some add-ins like a Kowalski Tart potentially. But I feel like that would be the maximum you could really send to the Jets' way. If the Jets are over there asking for like a first and a second, no, pass, sorry. And, too, and you mentioned Kowalski wants to be a Niner. Jamal Adams, does he really want to be a Niner? I know he listed us as his 8 teams, but seems like he wants to be a Cowboy a little bit more. Yeah. It looks like he wants to rock in Dallas. And, hey, that all better for him. I mean, that's the team he grew up cheering for. So, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, should we? I'm going to lean no. I'm also going to lean no just because Grant Cohn is the guy that put it out there, right, that these rumors are taking place. Grant Cohn has also said that he's had people inside the Jets basically say that Jamal Adams is a turd. I don't know. I don't know if we should add necessarily any character issues into our team, potentially. I mean, taking a chance. We just did have the Antonio Brown video we just released. And, hey, thank you to the YouTube viewing audience. Very popular video. But we said no. We passed on Antonio Brown because we thought that he would add a dynamic that might ruin the chemistry a little. Based off last year, based off the team we have, I feel like maybe Adams might also be in that kind of ballpark. Not nearly as bad. There's levels to this. Not nearly as bad, but not necessarily a net benefit to the team.
No, you see, this is where it's kind of difficult for me because I think he really can add to this team. You look at him, and the guy's just really talented to begin with. Obviously, definitely one of the better safeties in the league, if not maybe the best. Probably the best young safety in the league, only in his, 3rd year. So I think, to me, you can benefit so much from a talent like Jamal Adams, especially if we're looking at, trying to stop teams like Seattle, trying to stop teams like Los Angeles or even Arizona in their case, who are going to have a little bit more firepower now that DeAndre Hopkins is on the team with them. So maybe secondary was one of those areas where we just struggled the most, especially on the defensive side. That was definitely the biggest area where we could possibly look at improvements. And I think for me, Jamal Adams would be that improvement. But again, to me, it kind of just comes down to what do we have to give away? What do they have to give away to get Jamal Adams? And how desperate are other teams going to be too? You mentioned the Cowboys. Jerry Jones is going to try everything to get Jamal Adams there. And Jamal Adams, from what it looks like, he probably wants to be in Dallas anyway.
I mean, but if you're the Cowboys, like, what are you going to do? You're already paying Amari like a top-end contract. You're paying Zeke a top-end contract, and you're going to pay Dak. I mean, that's going to happen at some point. So it's like, can you really squeeze in Jamal Adams in the books? You also have Tank Lawrence on the other side, as well as they paid Collins as well. So, it's like that there's a lot of money that Jerry Jones has already spent at this point. And because he has a big pocketbook himself, it's still capped. Carry on with your point. Sorry, I just had to interject there.
No, and that you bring up a great point. Is if Dallas were to pull off the trade, I think they're more realistic to have him for only a year more than San Francisco. If Dallas does end up getting him, I think they're only looking at him for the 2020 season, and then he'll probably move on to a better contract with a better team who has enough cap space to sign a guy like Jamal Adams. But you also look at other teams that were on that list. The Chiefs, unfortunately, were on that list as well. I'm not too sure how realistic that is. The Eagles is also a pretty interesting team that was on that list. But to keep it like on a Niners standpoint, to me, I think to get a talent like him, if you find a way to make it work cap space wise, and if you could see it working past the 2020 season with having to pay George Kittle and eventually having to pay Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, obviously a couple years down the road, pull the trigger. You know what I mean? Might as well try to get a guy like Jamal Adams. But to me, like we've been mentioning, the biggest question is how much do we have to give up? And is it going to be worth it if he only sticks around in San Francisco for a year anyway?
Yeah. And two, he also had Seattle on that list for what it's worth. And we obviously don't want to see that.
Definitely not.
They have a pretty decent safety though themselves. They traded for Diggs last year, and he's pretty solid. But Jamal Adams would be an upgrade for them. If you're Seattle, they don't really use much of their first round picks anyway, so might as well acquire someone. I mean, at the same time, John Lynch isn't afraid to will and dill. He hasn't really drafted many safeties too, which I think is noteworthy considering he was a safety. Yeah. But I guess if anyone's going to be the right person to evaluate that talent, you would say it'd be John Lynch. Well, anyway, let's see here. I have a couple questions for Niners fans. So as you can tell, got this brand new, sexy Kyle Shanahan trucker hat right now. Now, I broke it out a little early, Jose. I just had to grab it because
it's all good.
Yeah, I was going to save it for the Kyle Shanahan video. All right, so yes, the next time when we get a chance to talk Kyle Shanahan, you can expect us both to be donning these. I do have a question for you Niners faithful, though. Stickers on or stickers off? I'm hearing mixed things. You know, is it a style thing, or am I just like old balls at this point? Anyway, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you think about Jamal Adams to San Francisco. Do you think that's the right move for them? And other than that, guys, you stay safe, happy, and healthy. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.